can't figure out what's causing you to feel a particular way about how much money I make, that's not something I'm gonna be able to cure inside of you. Now, if it's something that you wanna talk about and we wanna do whatever, but am I supposed to step down in my position to make you feel better? Am I supposed to, you see what I'm saying? Because I can make more money than you and still let you lead. You can still be the leader of this family. I'm just putting money in a pot. You see what I'm saying? So I don't think that the money is the real issue. I think the real issue is the insecurity of the person that makes it a problem.
I would like to hear some male perspectives and maybe even some married men.
Young and old.
Yeah.
Young and seasoned.
Go ahead, Deacon Terry.
Good evening, everyone. I'm kind of not going to straight up just answer the question, but I'll tell you how it works, you know, in my home, if that's okay. My wife and I, sometimes we have issues, you know, where I might need to pay this and I don't have the money for it. And she used to say, hey, I got you. It's no problem. Or the other way around, you know, it's I got you. It's another way around, just like that. It's 100 on both ends as far as I'm concerned, you know. And I've been married before and it wasn't like that. You know, it was a one-way street and it just didn't work out, you know, so that's my perspective on that.
Davian or Brandon? Oh, is he calling that?
Okay, there we go. I mean, for our relationship right now, I mean, we only been married going on 3 years, but the biggest thing and one of the biggest misconceptions I feel is that the male is just supposed to, you know, take on the responsibilities, which you are, but at the same time, if your spouse does make more money than you, then for me, because I witnessed it growing up, because my mom's a dentist, my dad worked for the state. So by the fact that she's a dentist, and like Jessica said, because the letters in front of her name, that just enhances the tax bracket. But in the same place, I saw him lead because he took over the finances. So regardless of who's bringing in what, it's still there. So I took on those same principles because we both work and do. Sometimes, the film industry took a big hit last year. So we went from making almost $80,000 to about $15,000 in the span of a year. But in the same space, we still worked together to figure out what we were going to do. So if you brought in this much, I brought in this much, we putting it together because it's not for what we had to learn, especially in our generation, is your money, this money. Nah, it's not your money or her money, it's our money because God put us together for this reason. So whatever needs to be taken care of is going in this joint account. A lot of people from older generations to now, everybody want to have these separate accounts. You can have your separate accounts, but the responsibility of a marriage is y'all are whole. So it shouldn't be, you take care of this, you take care of that. Everything goes in here. It might be your responsibility to cover you pay this bill, but everything you need to is allocated already here. So, but that's from the example I learned from my parents. So I can't speak for everybody else.
I want to. Oh, go ahead. Please. I'd love to hear from you.
Well, I mean, I wholeheartedly agree with what Brandon said because I think it's when it really boils down to it is how we spend money. It's not necessarily who makes more or who has more. It's about how we manage our resources together and where does it go. I'm not sure where the whole idea of who makes more came from. Outside of this whole idea that men were the breadwinners, which really came from women were not able to really get the jobs that men were able to and make the same amount of money that men were able to until of recent after late or around the 80s or whatnot, late 70s, 80s. But and so I really think it has to do with how do we manage our resources together. I think we put too much pressure on one another to you know, who makes more and all of this. I mean, if it's a marriage, at the end of the day, it's how we manage our money together, how we spend our money together. It doesn't matter who makes more. I don't know how that. Yeah.
I wanted to add that I agree completely with what Brandon said. I do think, like, for example, in our marriage, I think maybe the first year or so, we had separate accounts. Now, we managed the finances together, but we had separate accounts. And I remember we went to marriage counseling probably our third year. And the pastor was like, why don't y'all share accounts? And I was like, I don't know. I've always been taught, you know, growing up, make sure you have your savings account, girl, because you never know, you know, what's going to happen. Make sure you keep your account separate. And I understand where that comes from. I understand why women have experienced what they've experienced, and so that is the result of what they're saying. But I think for me and my thought process and how I feel about marriage, we share accounts. We share everything. And so with that, it has forced us to have difficult conversations about how we spend money. And I also think, too, it's not, I don't agree with who, you know, it's not about who makes more money, because at the end of the day, if we are supporting each other, then that's all that matters. And I feel like it's also about knowing your strengths, knowing your partner's strength. For us, I'm the finance person. For not to say finance person, but we do the budget, but I lead the budget. We talk about it together. But that's my thing. That's what I do for my job. That's my thing. His I'm not gonna say his strength is not that, but he has strength in other areas around the house. He's my handyman. He's my he's all of that. I mean, I take out the garbage too. I don't have a problem cutting the grass. I don't have a problem, you know, getting out there with him. So I just don't believe in having specific roles in your marriage. I just think it's about understanding what the person's strengths are. And when it comes to finances, I do believe it's about managing it together and how you do that. But having joint accounts, I think it's important for us because it forces us to be able to have those conversations, and it forces us to really become one. So.
All right. Thank you all for sharing your thoughts on that question. Now it's time to turn up the heat just a little bit more. So for our single people, or our people who were single before they were married, because you were there, do you believe in having sex before marriage, or is it a deal breaker for you? Look, honesty is the best policy, even if it's a bit spicy.
Well, I will say the goal was for us to wait until we were married. When I met him, I was president of the Celibacy Club in college, a very small group, but mighty and strong. I met him because he joined the group, and we just kind of clicked from there. However, the dating period for us was really rough. At least it was for me, because I was in a period where I felt like, oh my gosh, we did this, I'm going to hell. And I remember having those conversations with Shauna. Like, she's like, you keep focusing on not having sex, you're going to end up doing it. And so the goal was for us to wait until we were married. I even had him sign a contract saying, this is what we're not going to do, we're not going to touch, we're not going to do this. And it's hard. It's very hard. I think one of the things that helped me through it, I would say, he got his own story, but for me, I had mentors that I would call and say, hey, I'm in the heat of the moment. Please tell me what to do. You know, there were times where we would do well, and I would, you know, he would drop me off at home and from a date, and he'd be like, all right, I gotta go, and I'd be like, no, please stay. But there were moments where we would, quote unquote, fall and not go all the way there, but enough. And I never felt good about that. I always felt guilty about it. And I think I'm not gonna lie, it wasn't until we got engaged that we actually went through. but I still didn't feel right about it. So I think 6 months later we got married because we were in a space where I'm like, I don't want to do this. I don't feel right doing this, and we're not married. Plus I want to be an example. And so we got married at my mom's house. Our parents were there. And when I tell you I felt light after that, I felt light. So that's, I mean, I don't believe in that. So I guess to answer the question, I think it's possible to wait until marriage. I don't personally believe you have to test it out to see whatever. I feel like whoever God has for you is gonna be what it's supposed to be, and it's gonna be good. So.
All right, all right.
If I can make a comment on that, tell my style of the sword. I'm just playing. No, I mean, I originally joined CAN, which was the Celibacy Abstinent Network at Xavier, because, you know, prior to that, I was active, and I felt like, you know, if I wanted to be married one day, which I did, I needed to practice self-control. And so for me, the whole celibacy abstinent thing came about through practicing self-control. But I also realized that I needed God in order to do that, you know. And so for me personally, I think celibacy abstinent is important because a lot of people get into marriages and a lot of people bring a lot of things into the marriage, not realizing it. One in which is, you know, hypersexual, you know, tendencies, which is like, you know, it's not just the fact that you may, you know, be tempted by other women or whatnot, other men. It's the fact that you've had multiple sex partners, and that might become something that becomes a thing, a fetish almost, you know, to want multiple. And so, you know, if you've never had a moment where you've denied yourself of that, why would you think that you can practice it once you get married? I wanted to practice that before I got married, so when I got married, I didn't do it, you know. And it's helped tremendously because I don't necessarily, it's not that I'm not tempted to anything. It's that I have self-control. It's that I know how to, okay, I need to not, you know, I don't need to be thinking that. I don't need to be doing this. I don't need to be doing that. And so it helps tremendously. And so, yeah, I don't really, I think about it, you know, through, you know, how we've been taught as Christians to, you know, wait and to, but I think that there's also, I would say more practical reasons why we should do it, and one of which is self-control.
So, I used to be. Mm-hmm.
Child.
So the baseline of the question is, should or shouldn't you, right? Or do you believe? Okay, so I believe that you should definitely wait, right? You should definitely wait, and I think the reason I say that you should wait is some of what Javian was saying, but it's also the idea of, you know, we live in a world where, you know, oh, I see those shoes. Those shoes look better than those shoes. Let me try to, oh no, look at them shoes. So from a comparison standpoint, I feel like if you find yourself in a space where you have multiple sex partners, when it is time to get married and you've fallen in love or you have a different type of connection, and then that area doesn't match up to maybe what you might have been getting before, that could mar your idea of who you feel like you're supposed to be with. Because let's be honest, when you're engaging in those acts, you're not always thinking clearly about the person that you're doing these things with, right? And so when then you engage in those things prematurely, and it's like, oh, I'm in love. No, you're in love with that thing. I mean, you know what I mean? It's not necessarily that you just really feeling that person like that, and then if you really sit back, you know, we say hindsight is the best sight. You go back and it's like, well, what did I really, oh, okay, I understand. And you know, whether we want to be honest or not, that's reality. And so I just think from a thought process mentality, I just think it's more to stay clear, because when you find yourself in a space, I can say, oh, I enjoyed this person because of this, and this. not because of the fun that we have.
Okay, we'd like to hear from one more person on this end of the table.
Miss Renee or Elder Russell?
Miss Renee or Elder Russell?
You already got it?
As far as celibacy, that's a long way for me to think back. I'm 60 years old, and when I first, was out there, I didn't have celibacy on my mind. During that time, we was just out chilling, and stuff happened, and went along with it, and next thing you know, popped out 3 kids. So it's just, it's just what it is. But when I got married the second time later on in life, my mother-in-law was like, get your house in order. Don't be laying up there with Poonie and y'all ain't married, because that's my husband's nickname. So that was a stop, and, we just held off. We didn't do anything because, she was in our mind, and get your house in order, and that's what we did. We got our house in order, we got married, and after that, it was, 20 years later. So, but, thinking about celibacy when you're younger, that's the best time to think about it, because when you're up in age and you done got to that point and you done already had children, you don't even think about it. So.
Can I respond to it, or we moving on? All right.
Okay.
Oh, no, go ahead. Go ahead, Brittany. Sorry.
Sex matters to me, and I'm just being honest with you. And I don't believe that you should have sex before marriage, but as a single woman, as a woman who has been sexually active, have been married, and is not married and have been sexually active outside of being married, sex plays a big part in being married. And I know we want the love aspect, and I know some people can fall in lust, but I also know that I don't want to love everything about you but your sex. So for me, I also am a pleaser. And so I'm very honest about what I want. And brother, the marrying you ain't on the table if you can't satisfy me. I'm just being honest, because I think I know a lot of married couples who are sexually struggling. And it's a thing that's not talked about. So to be a Christian, I have struggled, but I have repented so many times, because God, I want to marry this person, but I also don't want to be looking at this person who pay my bills, do this, but when we go in the bedroom and I'm coming in here looking for King Kong, you cannot beat on your chest. I'm just being straight up. And so I had to say, Lord, help me here. Please help me here, because my sexual appetite has matured in being sexually active. So now that I'm mature, I know what I like, what I don't want to marry. I'm like, God, I got to be purposeful, and sex is one of the biggest parts. So that was a struggle for me. And I lived with the person I wasn't married to, which made it harder to do abstinence. So that was dangerous, because we liked our sexual life. So to be honest with you, no, I don't believe in it, but I have participated in it. And hope God forgave me, and we get married, and you love us now that we're married.
Okay. Yeah, that's fair. All right. Okay. We're going to move on to relationship values and non-negotiables. So what are your non-negotiables in a relationship? And if anyone says must love pizza, then we might actually have a debate. I mean, pineapple pizza. Pineapple pizza, then we might actually have a debate. Non-negotiables in a relationship. All right, Miss Mary.
Well, for me, the non-negotiables are: you must have a job. You must have your own car. I'm saying this because I'm not going to give you my money. I'm not going to let you drop me off anywhere and take my car. I'm being honest, because if a man going to be a man, he's going to have a job. To me, you're not a man if you're not out there working. I don't care if you're sweeping up garbage on the street. You must have a job, and you can't depend on mommy's and daddy's money, because that's mommy's and daddy's money. And you're definitely not going to be driving my car. That's not going to happen, because I don't like waiting on nobody to come get me, especially if you're in my car. I really do. I get upset with that. I don't care who it is. I don't like that. Now, when it comes to living, if you got a job, you got a car, I know you can make some money to get roof over your head. Now, all depends on, I've never been married before. I'm 65 and never been married before. Haven't lived with a man in 36 years. So y'all can see why I say job and car must be done. But I say this to say that. Those are non-negotiables for me. Now, all these other things, Mr. King Kong in bed, we could discuss that. That can be considerate, because I've been
That can be
I've
taught.
been single. That could be taken under consideration. I have been single all my life, and I'm not gonna lie. Y'all know I'm not an angel. Now, I'm not an angel. And I ask God all the time to help me with my fornicating ways, to strengthen me. Because sex is my most favorite thing in life outside of eating. I'm not going to lie about that. I tell people I don't have an addiction. My addiction is sex. And if I don't have that under control, I will be out there being promiscuous. I'll be laying with everything who tell me I look good. But I already know I look good. I tell them, tell me something I don't know. I already know. I know I'm fine and pretty. Tell me something I don't know. But those things are non-negotiable. You must have those things in order to be in a relationship with Miss Mary Ann Ledette.
All right now.
Simple as that.
My non-negotiables, you must love God. You gotta love God. You gotta have some foundation of God. Physical abuse ain't happening, because I will kill you. You have to take care of your children. You cannot have children and do not take care of your children and think that me and you gonna do anything or be anything. And you have to be hungry for better than where you are. Those are a must for me. Anything else I think I work with. Unfortunately, even cheating. Just being honest, I'm not saying I want to be cheated on, but I have forgiven cheating and grown. I have. So I'm not going to front and say that that's a deal breaker because it looks good to the world, because mostly everybody I know have had some form of dishonesty in their relationship. And so for me, I had to be honest about what I knew I couldn't deal with, and physical is definitely one of them.
All right. Can we hear? Oh, go ahead. Go ahead. No, go ahead, Jessica. No, go ahead.
So relationship with God. And true to yourself. If you don't understand or have a base understanding of who you are, the things that you want, because like I said, if I can't make you want to be more than what you want to be, and that's not my responsibility. If you want to do whatever, if it's sweeping trash, if that's what you want to do, sweep the trash, baby. Be the best trash sweeper you want to be. Do it well, have your, you see what I'm saying? So I think it's more about a mentality and a mindset for me, because a lot of times we get caught up on the external things that people say should happen or you shouldn't deal with, versus what works for you and what you need, right? No, I don't want a bum, but if you got a car, but you destined for me, I'm not gonna let that block my blessing. If you don't have a house, you know, that kind of ties into like we were talking about who makes more money, this and the other. Am I going to miss what God has for me because he's not in the financial position that I think he should be in? Am I going to miss my blessing because he doesn't meet the height requirements that I have? Now listen, I struggle with that a little bit, but you know what I mean? Like, so we have so many of these trivial or outside things that don't have nothing to do with being in a prosperous relationship and growing together, And most of the time, if we really sit down and think about it, it's nothing that we came up with. It's something that we told that we were supposed to be looking for in a man. So those are just the two for me.
All
Love
right,
God,
thank
be true to
you.
yourself.
Yeah, so I was about to say, I saw Bishop down there mumbling. I wanted to see what he was over there talking about.
Ask him where was he on his PhD.
Okay, well, what are your non-negotiables?
You asking me?
Yes, Bishop.
Okay. Well, out of my 40 years of being married, I would say that no relationship is any deeper than the least invested person. So what has worked for us is we both decided to be invested at the same level. I can't get into non-negotiables about things because that's not how we work. We're more philosophical. We're committed to communication and respect. And that allows us to manage all the other areas.
What do they say on Family Feud? Good answer, good answer, good answer. Okay, Elder Wiley.
Questions are age affiliated, because when you ask me what my non-negotiables would be at the age that I am now, would be different than what they were when I was younger. Even the financial thing, all of that would determine my age, because if I'm a single 60-year-old, there's certain things that I'm just not going to do, and I'm not going to tolerate. You can't come to me with nothing. I don't struggle with no 60-year-old. I'll struggle with you if I'm 20. Between the ages of 18, 20, 30, when you get past 35, my struggling days, I done struggled by myself. So now I need somebody else that have struggled, and we're going to meet these two struggles together. But age-affiliated questions, so it depends on how old you are to determine your answer to certain questions. And I think non-negotiables is an age-affiliated question, because there's just certain things I wouldn't do that you might do, you know, or you might accept. So I just think it's age. It doesn't have anything to do with what I will take and what I won't take.
So then how do you handle non-negotiables when you're married? You get married at 19. I want one thing when I'm 19. When I'm 21, I want something else, but I'm married to the same person.
Right.
And then I'm 31, I'm still with that same person, but I need something else. How do you handle the switch? Because I'm a new person every time I go around.
Well, they are too.
Right.
And I'm like Sister Bridget said, there has to be a willingness of growth somewhere in a relationship. And at 19 or maybe 20, maybe it has something to do with upbringing as well. What you require from a person comes from what you've almost pretty much have seen or been around. So if you have seen two people work together and grow together, then that's what we need to talk about. See, I think sometimes when young people get married, we don't discuss the right things. We talk about back in the day when people had picked your husbands and picked your wives for you. Now, I know we don't want to do that, and we don't want our parents to pick, but there need to be some talk to your parents. That young man, my mother used to say, he ain't no good. So we need to hear and be able to appreciate an older person or another person saying something about a person that we're looking to marry. And we need to bring their opinion into the situation. We don't want to do that young because Sister Bridget said it. We hung up on something else. We hung up on the love, the sex, and all that. When we young, that's what you hung up on. Because you don't know anything about working together. You don't know anything about struggling together. You don't know anything about raising children together. You don't know anything. But see, we don't ask the right questions. How do you feel? What kind of house do you want? How much you think you should pay for a pair of shoes? We don't ask those kind of things, but those kind of things matter. Because if I think I can pay $500 for a pair of shoes at 20 and you don't think I should pay but 50, we got a problem. That's going to create a problem in the long run. So you want a house that's 1,200 square feet. I want one that's 5,000 square feet. We got a problem. So we need to know what we want and what we desire and let both our desires and our wants come together. So that's still a maturity thing. So we're talking about maturities, but you're going to grow with each other.
I think I just asked that in the sense of non-negotiables to me, and this is just my thought process. If I go in with a non-negotiable, that's something I'm saying I'm not going to do, or something I have to have. Life changes. It goes in cycles. So if I don't want somebody that's not going to have a car, when we get to 30 and then something happens and we don't have a car, then I want to get divorced. You see what I'm saying? That speaks that to me. So if I'm talking about non-negotiables, I'm not saying, of course, I think the point of the panel is to, you should ask questions and do certain things. I'm speaking to the mindset of us that want to be married, have been married, whatever it is. I think that when we come in with a mindset of something that we don't want, we're not going to do, we block out God and what's supposed to happen in the relationship. You see what I'm saying? Because I may start out in all the things that we talked about, it may start out and sex is great. And then what if that thing don't work no more from a health situation?
That's why I go back to
You see what I'm saying? What if I started out being the breadwinner or the da-da-da-da-da, and then this happens? So see, now I have set in my mind, you're supposed to do this, you're supposed to do this, you're supposed to do this. So if we're supposed to come together in marriage, no matter who is doing what, you see what I'm saying? So I'm just talking about the mindset and the reason why I would say no non-negotiables in a sense for me, because I'm blocking the cycles and the growth that I'm going to go through in life by saying I'm not going to deal with X, Y, Z. Bridget said earlier, we've all dealt with, I'm not going to say we all, but we've dealt with some level of infidelity or something that we don't want. That's not the reason we leave. Right? It's not necessarily, it's not because they did X, Y, Z. So how do we speak to that? If we can overcome that, we can overcome somebody not having a car or not making over $25,000 a year. You can go do whatever, I'll forgive you for that, but you don't have no job, get out of here.
But that's not where your mind will stay.
That's what I was about to say.
Your mind is not going to stay right there. Just because I say you have to. What she said, I understand. She's 65. No, can't nobody come to me without a car. You're not coming into my life without a car because you're not going to take mine. I'm like her. I'm of that age. And if Bishop happened to go away and somebody need a ride, I'll take you wherever you need to go. And might not do that too many times. But you got to have a car. You can't use mine. So that's my age. That has nothing to do with my mentality. That's my age. That's what I'm standing for now.
I'm just saying at your age, at 65, do you still block your blessing because he don't have a car?
Yeah, I might.
That might be the person God.
I might. Okay.
Right. So that's all I'm saying.
Well, me and her might block ours. Because you're not coming without a car, because that tells me something about you. And it tells me something about your mentality. So you've been messed up for 60 years, and then you're going to come up in my life and try to get straight. It ain't going to work like that.
I think it's momentary, and I know you're about to cut it. I think it's momentary. I do believe that, where a person is doesn't mean that's where they are. That's my personal opinion. I can meet a person and just because they don't have a car, their car probably just broke. And so I personally feel like what you were saying is in the midst of the relationship, if something takes place and it's a non-negotiable, to me, the foundation of your relationship is going to let you know what you had. Of course, I don't want a man that's not doing anything, but in the midst of us growing together, if your car broke and I know I got a man, I'm going to roll with you. So that is not always, because sometimes it depends on who sense we talking, because you're the one in the relationship. So what I would say to what you were trying to say is, to me, that goes back to growing together, growing in the mindset. I have had moments where I didn't have a car, and I would hate for a man to look at me and think all of me because I don't have a car, because I'm a hard-working woman. You caught me in a moment. I think behaviors, lifestyles and behaviors are two different things. That's not a lifestyle, that's a moment. And everybody have a moment, even men. So
Speaking of men, we need some male perspectives on this topic. There's some people we haven't heard from.
You 60 without a car, that ain't no moment. That's your lifestyle.
Hey. Good evening again, y'all. I have maybe a couple non-negotiables, but one is that nothing comes between us. Not our children, not our parents, not our friends, or any other relatives. Nothing comes between us. And what we me, after you've been together so long, you've grown on each other, and nothing at all comes between us. So we negotiate everything, so nothing comes between us.
Any other male perspectives?
In reality, folks, things don't mean crap. We keep talking about things. Things don't mean crap. Because when you die, somebody else will have that car. Somebody else will have that house. Things don't mean black. Basically speaking, when you talk about non-negotiables, that should be between you and your spouse. As Terry was saying, keep these other Negroes out of your business. Period.
Period.
They don't pay one bill in your house. They don't get nothing fixed. Keep them Negroes out of your damn house.
Brandon's going to give us a younger perspective.
I mean, I come by it honest, so, but I would say in our relationship, it's not really like non-negotiables. It's more so these are the pillars that we follow. As far as in the center of our relationship is going to be the Lord. Period. Point blank. Period. And the other thing for us, because I don't think to say not to have non-negotiables, and because it's like never say never. Because like Jessica said, like if you're saying that you, because like my good Sean would say, depending on what happened to you in life, that's how you come up with non-negotiables. So that might be a bitter root judgment that you're bringing forth. So it might have been something that happened to you years ago, and then that's why you have this non-negotiable. Or this is I don't want to get to another question, but this might be a red flag that comes up. But at the same time, if you're open enough in your relationship, we like to use the phrase of humble, open, and transparent, honest, open, and transparent in our relationship. So that leaves an open line of communication. If we're having an argument, a disagreement, we might have to take time. She might process it faster. I process things slower. So I might have to take time to go sit down and understand and analyze. But for us, that reduces conflict. Like, of course, we're going to have disagreements because that's every relationship. But in the same time, you still have to be open enough and honest enough to have an open line of communication, because that's what most relationships don't have. I don't care. A lot of people say a lot of things look good on paper, but a lot of people not doing the work. It look good in church, or they look like, but it ain't looking good at home, because everybody wants to put this facade on that everything's good, but most of the time nobody's having these humble, open, and transparent conversations in their relationships. So for us, I feel like that's been the biggest thing, because it's been a lot of tough things that we had to get through, but we had to sit there and be humble, open, and transparent about it to get through those times.
Speaking of transparency, trust is fundamental in any relationship. So, how should couples address infidelity? And do you believe it's possible to rebuild trust afterward? And we'll start with the men.
Well, I'm single.
Go ahead, I was waiting for the men.
I'll start it off. I think, I mean, infidelity is, you know, a huge issue in any marriage, any relationship. Before her and I got married, we had those issues. And one thing that helped us is having the right people around to guide us through, in the sense of, you know, because I didn't understand why, you know, maybe she was so upset sometimes, why she didn't understand. I mean, my particular situation, which I'm not going to really go into it, was let's just say I put myself in the wrong situation and it wasn't necessarily something that I was looking for. And given that I put myself in the wrong situation, I still take full accountability of it, but at the same time, it wasn't something that I was necessarily seeking, you know, because at the time I was, you know, trying to be celibate and everything. I just put myself in the wrong situation. That being said, I felt like the backlash from that, I probably, you know, oftentimes we think, oh, well, how long will we process this? You know, how long will we be in this situation? You know, and the thing is that if you're doing the work, right, because, you know, it can linger, right? You've hurt someone, you've did something that probably was a non-negotiable, and now you're trying to recover from it. How do you recover from it when this was a non-negotiable and that person felt like they should have left you when you did that, you know? And honestly, from the man's perspective, it's, you know, definitely have to have a level of patience. You definitely have to have a level of understanding, because this isn't necessarily, you know, if it was to happen to us, we, you know, it probably would be gone. So it's like, you know, if someone does choose to stay, you know, the question becomes, you know, how do we deal with this together, you know? And it took a lot of time. It took a lot of therapy. It took a lot of me, you know, confessing over and over, like, this ain't me, you know, this wasn't me, and it's not gonna be me, you know. And it took her to gain trust for me again, you know, and that took time. Honestly, it took a long time. I would say at least, I don't know, I won't say how long it took. But I'm sad to say it takes time, you know. And the question is like, from the man's perspective is, you know, like I said, going back into it, the reason why self-control is so big is because as men, we're taught like this is part of being a man, is to fulfill this side of us, right? And so how do you retrain your mind to think otherwise, you know? And that's hard. That's not something easy. You've been doing that since you was however old when you started, you know? And so how do you retrain your mind to say, I'm a one-woman man? That's a hard thing. And I don't know if, you know, people realize that, but I'm saying that to say that you have to reprogram your mind. It takes time, and it takes a lot of patience. But I think ultimately, that's why I think you should come into the marriage with a sense that this is who I'm here to stay with, you know. But like I said, it's not, I know everybody probably have different perspectives.
Yes.
I'm going to weigh in on the infidelity issue. It's very nuanced. Men are very sexual beings. We can't seem to communicate that. We're very sexual beings. We're driven by what we see, what we feel. Women can be too, but not on the same level. And I don't think we've ever been able to communicate that. We're very sexual beings. Men also have a different approach to women. My wife is my woman. She's mine. But I'm a man. I can have anybody I want. She's got to be loyal to me. But all women belong to me. Secondly, women are smarter than men. We commit infidelity. Most of the time we do something stupid and get caught. You know the definition of an old man? The definition of an old man is when your cell phone rings, you tell your wife to answer that. Because you'll jump over a car to get that phone if it's the wrong person. But women are smarter than men, much smarter. We're a very sexualized society. When a woman cheats on a man, he feels like his personal property was touched. And the thought that another man touched my woman and has the same feeling that I had when I'm with her, or maybe she liked him better than me, drives us insane. But we don't want her to feel that way about us. Infidelity hurts because trust is broken. But I wouldn't be a preacher if I didn't believe that relationships can heal. People can get over infidelity. The last thing I'll say, though, but it takes time for trust to be rebuilt. And anyone who is guilty of infidelity needs to understand that that trust is not going to be automatic. It also has to be followed up by consistent, trustworthy behavior.
I believe that for infidelity, you, man or woman, who is considering this, take your partner feelings in consideration before you do it. Think about that person. How would that person feel? I personally believe that if you want to continue to be sexually active with multiple people, don't get married. If you know yourself, like Bishop said, men know who they are. They know how they are. If you want to continue that behavior, don't get married. That way you don't have to consider hurting anyone or even have to rebuild that trust, because it's a job. I've never been married, but I've talked to a lot of married men. And they tell me their little stories, but I tell them, if you want to take me out, take your wife out to dinner. She may like it. Consider that, and they look at me like I'm crazy.
Let me add something to that about why do we get married. The Greeks had a philosophy, and it exists today. You marry a woman to give you children, respect, and keep your house. You get your woman on the side to meet your sexual needs. We want a wife because we want respectability.
Wow.
We want respectability. We want a home and children.
I personally believe that it's your wife's responsibility.
Yeah, but that ain't always the case. You want to have it too hot to handle? Let's lay it on the table. Your girlfriend is going to do what your wife ain't going to do most of the time.
Well, the thing about that is wives should get to know their man before they marry them.
No. That's all well and good, because the average woman, before she get married, will turn you out. She Victoria's Secrets when you dating becomes your Aunt Jemima once you get married. Let's just tell the truth. She will turn you out when you dating. Do all kind of sexual stuff, and she'll get married. Ooh, you nasty.
But
let's go. Come on, let's talk.
Turn it up a notch.
Let's talk.
Can I say something?
Go ahead.
About building the trust. To answer the question, the answer is yes. Trust can be rebuilt, but I do think that trust can be broken without it being sexual.
Okay.
This is what I have to be honest. I have been cheated on sexually, but my heart was broken more by the relationship they built than the sex. If you could have just slept with her and left her alone, I probably could have ate that. But you won't take her out, and you won't buy purses and see her children and all that. You built a relationship, and now that the relationship is built, I'm not sure if you can let that go. Because I have had men offer to sex me coming straight out the club, and I know I was sweaty. So you didn't care about sleeping with me. But when you start to spend time and invest time, and you have a wife at home, that's why a lot of people end up in 2 relationships. It don't be that they just cheated. And for me, that's the harder part to trust, because now you got to let go of an investment. You made an investment. And for a lot of men, a lot of times, sex is not an investment. It was just something to do.
Like he just said, wives are here for this, that, and the other. But I'm saying this: if your wife or your woman, I'm sorry, it just what it takes to get that person, and what it's going to take to keep that person, whether it's 10 years down the line, 15, 20 years down the line. Just what that man or that woman was attracted to you at that, even it's just keeping your dishes clean in that kitchen. If that attracted him to you, ma'am, sir, you're going to have to keep that up from start to finish.
What happens when you have children?
When you have
and
children.
other things happen, and you can't keep up with those things, then what?
So yeah, I just think, again, sometimes we're talking about things that come from, like, it's a mentality, okay? I think that we've all been in some sort of situation. I don't know if someone wakes up and says, I'm going to cheat on my wife and husband today. That's my goal. I'm leaving this house. I'm going to do it. I don't care what. I think we take things too personally in this effect. If it does happen to you, and we're going to rebuild trust and we're going to try to work on this thing, first I have to understand that, or at least in my mind, not take this as ammunition, number one. Because if I'm going to decide to stay, I decided that I was going to accept the fact that this happened to me. Can't change that. But you can't keep bringing this up and using this as, and being the victim of the situation. You're not going to get to another space, right? So that's where, with the women, for me, that's a situation for me, because if it happened and you decided to stay, if infidelity is your non-negotiable, the day you find out, get all your girdles and your purses and go. Do not make this man's life more miserable, because look, it's something that happened on both sides, right? We're so selfish and inconsiderate of the relationship, because here again, yes, you have feelings. It probably tore your heart out. It made you feel some type of way. But that man had some kind of feelings, right? Now, yeah, he had a feeling when he was doing what he was doing, but then he had to get up and the reality had to come as well. So he had some type of trauma from the situation as well. We get so caught up on the next side. Now it's like, prove to me you ain't gonna do it no more. Well, what? Wait. Yes, we should have some boundaries and parameters that may be set to say, okay, yeah, we're working to this next situation. But normally we can't get to a place of healing because we would rather stay in the victim mindset and be able to use this gun every time something comes up. And that's not fair.
I disagree.
That's not fair to the situation.
I think that it haunts you. You sometimes don't want to think about it. When they go to work and your brain be like, are they really at work? That is a haunting feeling that you battle with even when you're not telling them. So even in the recovery stage, there are times that people who have been cheated on don't tell their spouse that they're thinking about it because it hits them out of nowhere. Their phone ring is PTSD. That is a real thing when you get cheated on. And I also don't think it's something that's taught. When I was a girl and I had a boyfriend, I found out he was talking to another little girl. It hurt my feelings, and I don't know why. Nobody didn't teach me he was supposed to only be my boyfriend. Just soon as I saw him with the girl with the prettier pigtails than me, I was, why is my boyfriend talking to her? It's something internal of ownership that comes with a being. I also believe that there is a role that we have to look at on making something open to be cheated on. Being honest. If you have a Rolex, or you have $1 million in your purse, and you in the grocery store, and you got your purse in your basket, and you leave that basket on aisle 3, and you go on aisle 10, and somebody take your purse, you're gonna be like, well, that was mine, and they're gonna say, well, if you value what was in it, you wouldn't have left it on this aisle. So I also was looking at self to say, did I neglect somewhere to leave something that was supposed to be valuable that somebody else noticed was valuable? No, I didn't say it was an excuse, but it's a reality. Because a lot of times we neglect our spouse, and that opens the door for the enemy. The Bible says even with sex, don't withdraw from it too long. We use that as we do things, and then when the enemy creeps in, whether it's infidelity or not, oh, they shouldn't have did it. So there's no hand that you played, and sometimes that's not true.
And I don't, yeah.
As far as our own experience. So I think for me, We've been married going on 9 years. The infidelity happened before we got, months before we got engaged. And we were young, and I'm not using that as no excuse at all. I'm just thinking about where we were and where we are now. We got married, we were 24. That's babies to me. So I feel like when it happened, I think for years, even after we got married, I think for me, I was more so not just upset with him and thought that I had forgiven him, because there were times where I thought I was over it. I thought I forgave him about it, but then it showed up in our intimacy. I didn't want to be intimate as much. We weren't connecting emotionally. And that wasn't on his part, that was on my part. But I didn't know I had locked my heart away because I was trying to protect it from him, from being hurt again. But again, that comes with counseling, that comes with a therapist, that comes with seeing some good pastors that give us the real, that say, hey, I know he messed up, but you got to do some work too. Right. So, and for me, I had to find out that all the action that he did brought me back to me feeling like I was abandoned again by my parents. You know, it brought up all these deeper things that I didn't deal with before I got married. So I think trust can be rebuilt. It definitely can be rebuilt. I don't think I wouldn't say it's a deal breaker, but I think it depends on the person. I can't say that for everybody. I think in our experience, it took many years because there were things that we both had to deal with personally that had nothing to do with the infidelity. So, and I also agree with Bridget about having those honest conversations about, hey, I want to know everything that happened. Give me all the details, who she was, what you did, what she did. Like, I want to know, because I want to know what's there. And it's not for me to say, oh, this is my fault that you did this. No, you take full accountability for that. But at the same time, I want to know what area could I do better as, and at the time we weren't even married, so I can't say that. But I think it's important to have those honest conversations, even now, to say, you know, what is it that you need? Do you like it like this anymore? No, I don't like it like that no more. I think it's important to have those honest conversations, but at the end of the day, to answer the question, I do think trust can be rebuilt.
Let me chime in just one more time. I talked about a man needing a wife for respectability and a woman to meet his needs. That was a Greek idea, and I think it's still extant in our culture. But let me take it a step further. I commented earlier about how people act when they're single. I neglected to say one thing. We act like we act when we're single because there's no commitment. When you're not committed to a person, you're going to behave differently. When you get married, you meet somebody you've never met before in your life. I don't care how you live together, you can sleep together. The second part to that is, if a woman is not meeting my needs, there may be several reasons for that. The overwhelming housework, taking care of children, running a house. And that puts a woman in a different posture. The reason that a single woman or a woman having a man can treat him a certain way, she ain't got to live with it. She can turn him out and send him home. She doesn't have to live with him. They don't have to pay bills together. The other part, infidelity, is that if my wife is not responding to me in a certain way, or vice versa, what part have I played in it? Am I sensitive to her? Am I caring to her? Or do I only touch her when I want to have sex? Do I help with the housework? Do I bring her flowers? Do I compliment her? Do I make her feel wanted? So I don't want to just give the impression that I'm beating up on women, because we have a responsibility. Ephesians 5 tells the woman to submit to her husband in one verse. The next 6 verses are on the man. To love her. The Bible never told you to love us, because that's your nature. The Bible told us to love you. If I can never bring you a flower, never help you with housework, never compliment you, never make you feel special, and then want you to turn me out, that's unfair on my part. And then I go get a woman who does it, but watch this, but she doesn't live with me. And oftentimes we men are much better to these women. We bring them flowers, we do nice stuff for them, and we treat our wife like an old shoe. That's a very new, when you start talking about infidelity, that's a nuanced thing. You just can't throw infidelity out there. There's usually a plethora of reasons. Now, sometimes it's just plain lust. But when you really look at it, if you're in a committed relationship and you step out of it, a lot of questions need to be asked on the part of the man and the woman. And the one thing I often think to myself is, have I created an environment to make my wife feel loved, respected, and appreciated? And I have no right to ask her to satisfy me when I do nothing to make her feel loved and wanted and appreciated.
All right. Thank you all for your insight on that question. And we want to take the time right now to thank our virtual audience for joining us and remind them that if they have any questions, feel free to ask them in the comments. So based on that last question, I think we can all agree that maintaining and enhancing a relationship takes effort, right? So what are some ways that you can keep your marriage alive and spicy? Because let's face it, Netflix and chill doesn't always mean Netflix and chill. Netflix is chill is when you're laying up watching television and it leads to something more, something a little spicier, or, you know, when it's not just Netflix and chill, you're just laying up watching TV. It leads to nothing but sleep.
Can I say something as a single person
Yeah.
that's not married? Then I want the single person to speak with talk. I was married. I've been through a divorce, and I am a life coach, and I life coach couples, married couples. And it's crazy because I get backlash for being a single woman life coaching, but they tell me I saved their marriage because I don't want them to be on my end of the street. So one of the things that I did learn, and I let other people talk, was finding someone you can trust that's non-biased to y'all, that wants to see y'all win. I know we do say things where you don't let nobody in your marriage, you don't do this, you don't do that, but a lot of times that person, it's funny that people can hear it from somebody else and you've been screaming it to them the whole time. But when the therapist say it, it's like a light come on. So I will say, to keep it spicy, have somebody that loves y'all enough to hold y'all both accountable, to hold y'all together, to make y'all, I think that's very, very, very important.
How do you
Well,
keep...
I won't share too much because our
Wait,
parents are here.
I'm sorry, D'Angela. I don't want to stop you, but I was asked to define spicy. You want to keep the spark, the thing that keeps you running to each other and running to the bed and not wanting to fall into infidelity, these things. What keeps you together? What keeps it spicy?
Well, like I said, I ain't saying too much, but I think to Bridget's point, I remember talking to my therapist about it. We both have our own therapist, but I remember sharing with her about, you know, challenges we were having before, about him feeling like he wasn't getting enough and all of that stuff. And I'm like, I'm good. Like, you know, I'm fine. But she had suggested a few things, and she was like, just try this, just try that. So I think it's about, again, going back to the conversation of, hey, babe, I know this is an area for us that, you know, we want to switch up a little bit. What is it that you like? What is it that you don't like? Because what I liked at 24, I don't like at 33. I remember one of our pastors was saying, yeah, when I was 22, I liked him to touch my left butt cheek. It's the right one now. So it's like you have to, you gotta change as you grow. And things change. Things look different. So you really have to talk and really be expressive about what it is that you want, what it is that you enjoy, and try those different things and don't be afraid to do it because it's you and your spouse. Like the world is yours. Yes.
Now, you know, I want to hear from, first of all, those two at the end, y'all ain't been saying much of nothing. And then I want to hear from some older married men.
Okay. Okay, now spicy doesn't just mean as far as, you know, your relationship in the bed or whatever. If it's gonna be spicy, you have to keep it spicy during the day. Flirt with me, call me, you know, while I'm at work and say some stuff, you know.
Hey, talk to me
you know,
nice.
Be sexy throughout the day, you know, romance me throughout the day. I'm gonna romance you throughout the day. That way, when you do come together as far as a couple, then, you know, you don't have to put in all of that extra spice. It's already there because you brought it in throughout the day. So, you know, you just have to be spicy like that.
And I will say, I'm sorry, please talk to your spouse about it because they may not like you to do that. You know, you might want to send pictures. They may not like that. So it's important to talk to them to get what they like so you can do what they like to do.
Lord, that's what your wife said. Clearly, y'all on one accord. That's good.
Yes, Elder Russell.
Woo, Elder Russell. Elder Russell.
Well, I'm like Elder Wiley said earlier, we a little bit older than the rest of you all that's in here. So, but anyway, at 70, I pretty much agree with my girl right here because my husband and I, we communicate a lot during the day. We talk, we flirt, we do all kind of stuff, crazy stuff sometimes. Like this past week, I didn't tell Bishop the whole thing, but I just told him we had a good time in D.C. By both of us being off from work and hadn't been together and, you know, by ourselves for a long time, we done a whole lot of stuff this past week.
Girl,
we did a whole lot of catching up.
I knew you was
So put it
glowing
like
over
that.
there.
But, she was the man one more time. But you know, you have to know your limits and where your spouse is because everybody is not in the same place. I was listening to everybody up here talk, and I wasn't going to say anything, but since they didn't ask me to get this mic, I'm going to let y'all know. I agree with, I think someone said it a little while ago. You're talking about your man and your wife and all this kind of stuff. There are situations that comes in your life that causes you not to be that fire burning person you used to be. It can be cancer. It can be brain surgery. It can be arthritis. It can be menopause. It can be diabetes. I mean, right now, we as black people, let's get real, since we want to get real. We have a whole lot of stuff that can hinder us, but we still have to remember, if we have a spouse, we still have to take care of our needs. So we just have to bite the bullet and say, God, give me the strength. Might not can do like we used to do, but do what we can do and keep moving. So y'all looking and y'all laughing, but it's true because I'm here to tell you, I'm like Bridget. I coach a lot of people too, and I've heard a lot of stuff. But if somebody say they're leaving you because you can't do this and you can't do that like you used to do, let them go. You know why? Because they don't understand one day what you're going through right now, they may find it down the road worse than that. So you have to be careful what you dish out and how you say things. And I also heard the lady say about no car, no house, no all this stuff. I agree with what I think my pastor said or somebody down there said it about, Deacon Barry said it. That's fragile stuff. I mean, a car, you can have a car and go right down the street to the light and lose a car. Or you can have a house and walk out of the house and it can burn up. You just got to the corner. So we have to realize what we looking for in life. When my husband and I got married, Bishop, I don't know if Elder Wiley remember, she was in my wedding, but Bishop knew for a fact. My husband was totally blind. After we got engaged, yes, he had arthritis in his eyes that came out of nowhere. His doctor at Tulane still today saying it's a mystery. She had never seen that in her whole life. And he was totally blind. I can show you the pictures. Yolanda sitting there, Elder Wiley sitting there. They was in my wedding. We led him to everything he had to do, including signing his license. So suppose I was like somebody over here said, worried about a house and a car. He had all that and still couldn't see and couldn't drive, so what's the difference? But I ought to let him go because what he didn't have. Right now, I think I got the best man there is.
Period.
And I'm proud to say it. Because you don't know what God got for you. It may be a garbage man. It may be a man carving a chicken and you calling it a turkey just to flirt with him. You know, so I hope I answered everything y'all wanted me to answer, because you have to know where you are.
Thank you.
And you have to know where you are in your relationship. You can't,
That's right.
I always tell people this, and I know Sister Wiley, sometimes she used to tell me, "Betty, stop saying that." But I always tell people that. You can't have a relationship like Bishop and the Elder Wiley got. Because sometimes I'll be at the house, be like, "Girl, you done lost your mind. What they doing like the people." I mean, this the way they are. I look at them all the time and I be saying, "Lord Jesus, just help my pastor and his wife." But that's the way they are. And that's why I do some of the things that I do. I be saying, okay, if they can get by with it, I can do it too. So sometimes you have to look at somebody that's going somewhere, and you don't have to take on their role, but kind of like pat on yourself behind some of the things that they're doing that you see that they're successful with. So you just move into that spot and ask God to just give you direction, leadership, and keep following him. And you will see yourself going higher and higher.
All right,
All
that's
right,
her
Michelle.
man, and she gonna stick beside
I
him.
think being spicy as well, it's about creating an intimacy, period. Yes, the text messages, different things like that, but through conversation, through talking, not just what you want in the bed, I think, because it speaks to, like I said, if you get to a point where you might not be in that space, then we still have to have something else that's gonna carry us, so that's gonna keep us in a particular area. And so, like, when life starts to happen, I think another thing is too, just awareness of what we're doing. Bishop said, you know, before you get married, you're doing everything nice, and then you turn into Aunt Jemima. Okay, some things might happen, but like you said, I might be in a depressed state, and that might alter how much I used to do. That might just take a nudge. Babe, you don't really touch me like you used to. I might not realize that I stopped doing what it is that I was doing before just because of the state of mind that I was in. And so most of us are not adult enough to even have a conversation to be like, it's not about, oh, you didn't, why did you stop doing it? Because it's hard to build a habit, but it's easy to break it. And so it could be something as simple as, oh, you were sick last week, so we wasn't hugging and touching and kissing, and now we just ain't hugging and touching and kissing. It been 3 weeks, you healed, but we just didn't come back or remind each other, hey, hold on, we healed, let's get back. So sometimes it's just life happens, we understand that. Your job, the other person's job, whatever, but it's an awareness when we come back, hey, we ain't gonna let that bother us. So, you know, and opening up that communication about whatever and drawing close together.
Open communication. All right, Deacon Barry.
Yeah, like when you talk about spice, you may have to actually change that spice. You could probably use the jalapeno peppers at first, but you can't do that no more. You might have to use onion powder, garlic powder, the habanero, you know, and, well, yeah, add two. But in my situation, all right, I am a prostate cancer survivor. Okay, all right, which means that at Get Up and Go has got up and went. Okay? So I have had to adapt, you know. There are other ways now. But see, as my grandmother used to say, keep on living, boy. Like, you're gonna find out. And she wasn't lying. But but it's a way, you know, in the terms of a communication where you have to adapt now, because I got married back in '85, and we will be celebrating 39 years in about 4 hours. You know, so see, in those 39 years, you know, like you had to move and duck, dodge, and rope-a-dope and everything else, you know. But still, you know, it's a way to actually do something, you know, like you just have to adapt now, you know, that you are not agile and mobile as you once were, but you have to adapt now. Hey.
Any other male
I
perspectives?
think the overall thing is like
90%.
never stop trying. I mean, a lot of things can come about: children, work, stress, a lot of things. I think ultimately you can never stop trying, and you can never forget that part. I think, you know, one thing I was taught was, you know, as a man, is to go and buy, you know, what I want to see her wear. I was told, you know, text her or, you know, whatnot, hey, I want to see you in those shoes, you know. But, you know, ultimately it's never stop trying, and to continue to, you know, the communication, because ultimately once you stop or once you forget or whatever, in my mind, excuse you give, you are neglecting your partner. And like anything else that comes in a relationship, like paying the bills, rent due.
So I remember we did that that love languages talk with the women of life, and I don't know if it was Deacon Tanner, but he said something that like I was like, dang, that's good. And he said something about like how we talking about like you gotta text during the day, send whatever you doing, but he said you gotta make your daily deposits so you get your nightly withdrawals. And I was like, ooh, yeah, that's it. You gotta, but it makes sense. So that's all I'm gonna say.
All right. So before we wrap up for tonight, I have another question, because we do have some single people who will not be leaving home with someone tonight. So how can single people cope with feeling loneliness, especially if many of their friends are in relationships?
Me being a single woman, I deal with loneliness like this. When I lie down in the bed at night, I say my prayers and I thank God for every day. And I don't be lonely. I'm never lonely, because God is always with me.
Amen.
And I myself, like I said, I haven't lived with a man in 30-something years. You know why? Because when I lay my head down on my pillow, I like to say, Our Father in heaven, I thank you for all my blessings. And I feel some kind of way laying next to a man that's not my husband, saying that to God, because I feel like I'm cheating my God out of what I'm asking him for. So that's why I'm never lonely, because I always lay my head down. I go to bed with God on my mind in the name of Jesus. So I'm never lonely.
That is
Hold on, I'm
beautiful.
just trying to get some of that.
That's
I want all
beautiful.
what she got.
That she never lonely.
You know?
I just think you gotta find the tools to get you through.
Well, you know what? You know how I deal with that? You know what? I go to bed and I wake up and it's done gone by past me. I done slept through it and I'm waking up to a whole nother day. It's a temporary, I say it's a temporary gratification of the body. It doesn't really satisfy my soul. So I learned to do without, because it's just a temporary gratification of the body if you're not in sync with that person in your heart. And that's how I get through it. And
I think you gotta find your things. You have to find something to supplement the feelings, right? Because ultimately, you know, of course, sex is very important. We put a lot of emphasis on it. Yes, you need it. It's, you know, this, that, and the other. But at the end of the day, I mean, how long it really lasts, right? And then after that finish, like, you see what I'm saying? So, like, at the end of the day, like, you have to find a space either mentally or just through other activities to find something to do. You know what I mean? If it's,
Oh, no,
listen.
don't you do it.
No, I don't think I was about to go down there, but I'm just saying, prop the pillows up and get you on the side. That's my bait, right?
Toys
Lord.
don't work.
Whatever it is, I'm not even talking about toys. I'm not even going there. I'm just saying whatever you have to do to get yourself in a mental space, because at the end of the day, you know, whatever that physical desire you might feel like you need, usually is really derived from something else. You see what I'm saying? Because I don't think. Cutting up down here. But just find a way, get you a prep partner. I don't know what you might need, but just find a space in your head where you can get through that temporary thing that you feel like you need. You know what I mean? Because when you wake up the next day, nah, she's saying she do real good. Ultimately, it's probably not even that particular thing. It may be something else that you're missing. You see what I'm saying? It might be something else, just the companionship of something. You see what I'm saying? So it might not always be about the act, but it's just at a certain time of night. We already know, you know what I mean? So just find something to supplement and put you in, if it's, you gotta watch a love movie, just to have those bubbly feelings, not the ones that go that way. But I'm just saying, you know, something that promotes, love and togetherness or whatever, but find something that's going to get you, you know, to that space, because ultimately, that's not the real desire.
If you're already feeling lonely and this and that, why would you want to watch a movie
Well,
about
that might not be the
love
one
and
that
all
you
of
need.
that
That's why I
kind
say
of
find your thing. So you got to find something that's going to supplement you, because it's mental. It's mental. It's not, you know, whatever you feel like. Even with something just natural, even when you're hungry, you might want the french fries, but you need the grapes. I'm saying you got to find a way to supplement and get to the thing that you really need versus, you know what I mean? Find a way to deny whatever those feelings are you feel like you might be having.
The struggle of being single is not always sexual. A lot of times when you go from a full-blown relationship to single, it's no different than getting off drugs. It's cold turkey. When you go from 5, 6, 7 years of having somebody there with you to the next day, you got to learn to cope with that person not being in it. It's not just sexual. I don't want to do life by myself. I don't want to get the kids on the bus by myself. I don't want to pay all these bills by myself. To roll over and say, babe, stay asleep, I got it, is, man, what? Come back home, I'm already dressed. Because what's up? And to go cold turkey is like drugs. It is weaning off of drugs, and that's how it really feels. It feels like you went from something that gave you a rush every day to not having it. The coping mechanisms, first of all, is honestly being honest with it and saying, God, I don't want this. I think that being honest about wanting somebody has become like a thing of desperation. Oh, she desperate to have, no, I date. I date. And if you don't work, I'm going to date somebody else, because I don't think God wanted me to have and carry this by myself. He made too many fine men for that. Girl, no indeed. I'm going to see you want what you're looking for, what you're not looking for. I am open to dating because I am dating with a purpose. I want companionship. I love companionship, and I am not afraid of it because heartbreak already took its hardest hit. So you can't take nothing from me. You can't hurt me. I didn't hit the bottom. So if this didn't work, well, baby, I was good. I'm good in bed. I know how to cook. You lost. Next, what's up? Because I don't want to lie to myself and pretend that I'm okay without the beautifulness that God created in a man, that, because I know what love feel like. Even in heartbreak, experiencing love, man, I want that. And I'm going to date, and I'm going to be open, and I'm going to find it, and I'm going to be honest with God, I'm going to find it, and I'm going to be open to it. I'm not going to be so closed-minded to love. You know what I'm saying? I'm not going to let heartbreak rob me of that.
I pray to God to send me my husband, not no one else's husband. I don't want anyone else's husband. Honest to God, I don't want no one else's husband. And I'm 65, never been married a day in my life, and I pray because I want to share my life with someone. I don't supposed to be alone because I got too much love in my heart to share with someone. But I don't want it to be just, anyone.
That's why I said not desperate.
I met a gentleman, the last 2 months, three men that follow me around they follow me around in the store, and I've been to Walmart. Last week, a man followed me around at Dollar General. The one on Jefferson, he followed me around in 3 men in the last 2 months. And he was telling me, because I had on dress, the dresses do it. You wear a dress, it'll do it. But this man followed me, and then he saw where I live at, he came back and talked to me. And it goes back to where this man was giving me a story about his wife being sick and everything, and she can't be intimate with him. But I had to tell him that I cannot be with you, sir. I can't be with you because you're married. Simple as that.
I can't address the loneliness and singleness, but I can say that one thing that needs to be emphasized, during singleness is self-healing. I think a lot of people, especially if you've been in a lot of relationships, you may at times, it's a lot of trauma that comes with that if you've been hurt. And so I think one thing that, needs to happen, is, healing. And, one of those is, of course, through your relationship with God, but also finding out who you are. Who are you outside of just being someone's spouse? Who are you outside of just being for someone? Because I think sometimes when you're single, you tend to emphasize way more about being with someone else, and then you little yourself and you stop doing what matters for you. But what is it that you like? What it is that you like to do? And another thing to add to that is a lot of, there's these negotiables. And I talk to a lot of men and women who talk about negotiables. And oftentimes those negotiables that they have is for that person, but they don't inscribe those negotiables onto themselves. And so they have these high standards for someone when they're not willing to live up to that themselves. And so that's a part of, and that goes for, single and married people, is to, one, heal yourself, constantly be in a place of openness to hear from God in areas that you might need to heal from, but also to know that when you go into a relationship, it's not just about that person, it's about both of y'all. And, I tend to think about my marriage as, this is our thing between God, right? And so ultimately, what am I doing to be better for the marriage? Which means, what am I doing better to work in unison with God and her? And so, like I said, when it comes to singleness, I think, one thing to focus on is yourself, but also to know that, going into another relationship, and the reason why I'm emphasizing this, because I think a lot of times, living in America and going through the struggles that we go through as black people, and there's a lot of them, and there's not a lot of men out there, because of, a lot of them are incarcerated, a lot of them are dead, but the ones who are out there, I think that there is a huge gap in some ways, and so the ones who are out there, I think, we really need to do a lot of self-healing, because it's a lot of trauma that's attached to living in this world, and it's definitely a lot of trauma that we have to go through as black people. And I think, that's the number one thing that we have to be committed to, is healing ourselves.
Agreed. Heal yourself, identify your values, and commit to communication. I think these are 3 important things that we can all agree on from tonight's conversation, right? All right. So thank you for your honest and insightful answers. This has been a fantastic discussion, and I hope that our audience online and in person have found it just as enlightening and thought-provoking as I have. So we're just going to take... Yes, ma'am. Yeah, you was doing all that hollering. So, before we wrap up, I didn't say You at the Life Center Cathedral. You shamed by anything you said? Oh, all right then. Then you should be just fine. All right. So before we wrap up, we're gonna take a moment to collect an offering to support, what we do as a ministry and our outreach. So your contributions, they do help us to continue to have discussions like these, open up the table where we can be humble, open, and transparent. So you got envelopes, or you can go to Cash App, LCC NOLA, and make sure you put in the notes, Women of Life. And we want to thank you again to our wonderful panelists and everyone who joined us tonight. Remember, these conversations are just the beginning, okay? Keep talking, keep exploring, and keep growing in your relationships and your personal journey. So we want you to have a great evening, and we hope to see you at our...